Welcome to our next episode of Muse Stories Return on Investment Tales from the Arts. I'm your host, Tracy Durson, and I am so excited to have my next guest here, Gaby. Hi, Gaby.
Hi, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. And it's just such a joy to be able to reconnect with you. And I'm so grateful that you are willing to tell your story and share it with anyone out there who's listening. So let's jump in. And I'm going to have you start by just introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your origin story, and if you want to share how we know each other.
My name's Gaby. I'm born and raised in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale. I know Tracy because she was the director of admissions at DePaul University, where I studied stage management. And Tracy honestly could be the reason I went to DePaul, the theater school,
Oh,
single-handedly. So we're very close. You also, hold on, totally forgot, were my boss for 4 years.
I was. I was
And
your
I
boss.
worked in the admissions office. um, Totally blacked that out of my memory. But I feel like we got so close over those years, and I have just really valued your advice and support and still look to you for advice and support. And now I'm in merchandising. So I have transitioned out of theater, sadly, but also happily. And I'm sure we'll get into all of the transferable skills and things and
Yes.
kind of dig deeper. But that's like a very brief synopsis of where
Yeah.
I'm.
I love it. No, that's a perfect introduction. And there's a big reason why I want to interview you besides the fact that you are a very dear person in my life. But I love showcasing in these stories that sometimes people do not stay on the pathway of being in
Yeah.
the performing arts. And so I think it's really important to share those stories. So let's kind of start at the beginning because I think this is always important. So as high school students particularly are considering pursuing performing arts in college, I think
Yeah.
it's good for them to sort of hear where other people started, and how that led them to where they are now. So you mentioned that we know each other from DePaul University, which is a common theme and thread in a lot of these stories. But talk about how you decided to pursue the performing arts in the first place and how you ended up attending DePaul.
Yeah. So I actually was never a theater kid. I played lacrosse my whole life and found theater because all of my friends were doing it in high school. And I feel like the theater in high school in Florida is very competitive, like taken very
Mhm.
seriously. Think Glee. Like these kids don't
Mhm.
play around. So I kind of dabbled and like jokingly loved it and did all the shows. And then it turns out I had been doing it for 2 years. I'm going into my junior year. And the director was like, okay, so like, what do you think of doing for college? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, obviously you have to go into stage management. Like you've been doing it for 2 years. You're doing the musical right now. Like you're amazing. It's going to be great. I didn't even know this was an option. A little other context, like neither of my parents went to college. So I'm a first gen. So it was very, very new. I was like, what is Common App? What are the SAT? I was just kind of following what everyone else in high school was doing and like doing what my guidance counselors wanted me to do, which wasn't much. So my director was a heavy influence in me thinking about this and then sitting down with my parents and thinking like, okay, what can we A, afford? B,
Mhm.
like, what does this actually look like? And C, do I even want to do this? I
Mhm.
think at the time my life was theater. Like, I'm sure a lot of other high school theater kids can relate. Like, you go to school from 8 to 3, and then literally from 3 until midnight, we were in rehearsal. We were building the
Mhm.
set. On the weekends, I was there. The only people I talked to were my theater friends. Like, everything in my life revolved around theater. So I was kind of at a place where I was like, I can't imagine anything else happening in my, like, I'm not going to go
Mhm.
into science. Like,
Right.
so from that point, then it was like full steam ahead, prepping my materials, prepping for interviews slash auditions. I think it does look a lot different for actors and folks that are backstage or designers behind the scenes. So for me, that was a massive portfolio that had like all of my paperwork and pictures and things. I actually did meet with a college coach and went through my resume, my cover letter, test scores, all these things. And then it was just like applying and interviewing. And I think I was very, very fortunate and lucky and just worked very hard. And I ended up applying, I want to say, to like 20 schools, which is
Oof.
really crazy. And none of my non-theater friends understand that. But really, I don't know any numbers or math, but like 25% chance because you
Mhm.
have to get into the university. And then you also have to get into the theater program. And it's
Mhm.
like 50% that you'll get into the university, depending on your scores and where you're at and all that kind of stuff. And then 50% that you're even going to get into the program, like with your audition
Mhm.
interview. Of all of those schools, I think I got into like 15 or 18. So
That's amazing.
I was really lucky, but I also recognize that stage management, like, it's a lot more niche than, like, the acting population where you're getting
Mhm.
thousands of kids. Like, I was a little lucky there, but was so excited. And then narrowing down it, the biggest influence I think for choosing a school was A, did I like it? And B, money. Money
Mhm.
was huge. I did not have this, like, big savings account that I could pull from and pay for college. So it really
Mhm.
was conversations, and that is when Tracy stepped in, when I was, like, interviewing and auditioning and really, really prospecting me as a potential student, and I remember we went back and forth a few times, and
Mhm.
he really helped get that scholarship up and talk me into it and helped me and my parents understand like moving to a different city for college because even college was a hurdle. Like we didn't know.
Mhm.
And I probably talked for way too long and don't remember what the question was, but that's how I got to college. And now we're at DePaul University.
Yeah, no, you answered that perfectly, and what I love about that so much, and so many nuggets to take out of that, right? Like, the fact that you're a first-generation college student navigating a unique admissions process,
Yeah.
that's so you're adding that layer on top of it. You're applying all over the country, which doesn't always happen for first-gen students because a lot of
Yeah.
times, like, myself included, like, your family thinks you have to stay close to home.
Mhm.
There are financial barriers, potentially.
Yeah.
There's just so many things, right? And so you're navigating extra just challenges or considerations in this
Yeah.
process and then applying to a highly competitive program. And, while you said that there may be thousands of people who apply to acting programs, stage management is highly competitive as well. And that was a big part of, working with you in your process and me knowing, like, we're only going to bring in 4 students and we have a huge applicant pool. And so the ones that we really wanted. It was really, amazing for me to be able to just support you as you navigated that financial piece. I mean, the whole process, but really
Yeah.
getting to the end, like, "What can we do to get Gabby?" And then you said yes. And I'm so grateful that's how it all ended up for very selfish reasons, right? Because I
Then
then
it's
got to
not.
spend 4
I'm
years with
so
you.
glad.
But yeah, stage management for people who aren't familiar with it, I mean, it's one of those majors that when you know it, but there are a
Mhm.
lot of people in the performing creative arts world that don't necessarily understand how intense that
Right.
is to have to prepare to come in as a stage manager. So,
Yeah.
give yourself a lot of credit. There are a lot of things that you overcame to get to that point.
Yeah.
And now knowing that you had that many places to choose from, I'm extra happy that you ended up in Chicago.
Right.
Which, for people who are listening and not watching YouTube, Gabby has an amazing urban Chicago landscape in her background. Okay, so you come to DePaul, you major in stage management, and I want to hear a little bit about your experience as a stage manager and how did you kind of come to start to realize that you may or may not want to be a stage manager after graduation?
One thing I will say is that I went to college in COVID. So
Hmm.
I have a very different experience than a lot of people.
Yep.
And COVID for me was the end of my freshman year. So I went to college for basically 9 months, went back home for 2 years, and then moved back to college for my senior year.
Hmm.
So I really had like 2 years of the traditional college experience, if you will. Stage management for me is honestly just my personality.
Hmm.
I think I was 10 years old when I asked for my first label maker, so it really all just fit together. My experience in college, I'm now realizing is very different from the general population. Like we
Hmm.
went to class from 8 to 5. Rehearsal was 5:30 to 10:30.
Hmm.
We would go home, not really do homework because it was college. I'm kidding. And we had rehearsal every day and on weekends, and then
Hmm.
tech, which was even crazier and longer hours, and then shows, and that was all year long. Like, the only
Hmm.
break we really got was summer, and then over the summer, we were typically working at nearby theaters or things like that,
Hmm.
or prepping for the next show,
Yep.
or taking summer classes. Um, so it was intense. I feel like the skill, and I can go on and on about, like, organization, collaboration, and creativity. Genuinely, I think what sets me and other theater kids apart from our colleagues is our work ethic. Having to work such intense, long hours
Mm.
all year round, like going into a 9 to 5, I was like, oh, this is cake. Like, this is easy. And so I just feel like I'm getting so much work done in my day that most people aren't used to. Um,
Mhm.
or taking that home at night, and work life balance is an amazing thing and have that.
Mhm.
Just having like the capacity, like I would say my or our theater kid 100% is most people's like 50, 75, like functioning at a higher capacity. Not that we're better or whatever, but
Mhm.
we're just used to such crazy schedules and workloads that
Yep.
anything else in life seems very easy to navigate, to deal with. Uh,
What I really love about that is I don't know if anybody's named work ethic yet. We've talked a lot about like
really?
creativity and
Oh
gumption and
my gosh.
passion and mentorship, but work ethic, like it's been woven through everything we've talked about, but that is newly stated. And
Yeah.
I that is so true. And
Yeah.
before we started recording this podcast, Gabby and I were talking about, how incredible like student workers were on my team. It's like they function in a different way from people I've worked with in other professional spaces, right? And there is so much to be said that you can go to work, bang out what you need to do, and then go home at night and be like, that was a productive day, right? And not every day is the
Yeah.
same, but I have no doubt that you probably from day one have been blowing away your coworkers with like, yeah, I can do that. I can get that done. Look at how fast. Look how amazing. I really appreciate that. And it's a huge transferable skill to just put out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good segue into, okay, so you graduated. And when you graduated, remind me, you were pretty sure you didn't want to be a stage manager professionally. Is this true? Or did you want to dapple for a while before you switched
Um,
over to this side?
I think I was in the process of making the decision my junior year because I was still in the midst of
Hmm.
COVID. So the
Hmm.
industry took a 180 when COVID hit. And it was
Yes.
really like, you have to love this truly, genuinely to your bones. And
Hmm.
I think I loved theater, but I think it had served its purpose in my life personally.
Hmm.
And I didn't have that same sparkle, passion, glimmer in my eye that most of my friends do.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you've talked conservatory and like this is literally all you eat, sleep, and drink for 4
Yes.
years. But I just had this inkling that like it wasn't exactly it because I didn't not I'm not saying this in a lazy way. I didn't want to
Hmm.
fight the fight versus like
Hmm.
the pandemic happening in the world. And I was just scared. I was like,
Hmm.
I got to make money. I'm living in Chicago. My parents are not
Hmm.
gonna pay my rent the day after I graduate, and theaters are not hiring. Like,
Yeah.
there is nothing going on in the world. So
Right.
I gotta figure something out so I can stay
Hmm.
here. And so I think the easiest, most comfortable thing for me was marketing or
Hmm.
something like advertising, like something creative, and I just got on LinkedIn and honestly applied. I wish I could pull the numbers from my LinkedIn profile to thousands of jobs.
Uh-huh.
I think the end of my senior year, the only thing I was doing was waking up, getting on LinkedIn, applying to a million jobs. By that time, it was 5 o'clock. I needed to eat dinner and would go to bed and do the same thing the next day. Like,
Hmm.
of all of them, I think I got 3 interviews and got
Hmm.
one job offer. So I took it.
Yeah.
It was the company that builds the displays for like Target. The
Hmm.
like actual displays and it has a little dog on top where like they put the products.
Yes.
I was literally building and designing those displays.
Uh-huh.
Cool and fine, but it was in the suburbs of Chicago. I had to get a car to get out there. It was like, it just wasn't a great experience for me personally.
Hmm.
So then I was a year into that and was like, okay, I have some experience under my belt. The world is a much different place than it was 2 years
Yes.
ago.
Uh-huh.
So I got back on LinkedIn, connected with a DePaul alum who worked
Hmm.
at Nadal, which is a merchandising branding company, which is where I'm at now, and interviewed, got the job, and have been here for 2 years now and absolutely love it. So I'm having
Mm.
a great time. But I think that was kind of what prompted, like, I think it was the world around me that was scaring me a lot. And that
Mhm.
external um, influence that kind of prompted the look. And then once
Mhm.
I stepped outside of it, and had my weekends back, I was like,
Mhm.
"You guys are going to happy hours at night? Like, we're going out on the weekends? What do you mean? Like, I haven't gone out on a Saturday night in 5 years."
Yeah.
We always had rehearsal and then tech the next day. So I was like, Whoa, this is a lot of fun.
Yes.
So, not to discourage anyone from going into the performing arts, but
Right.
I kind of got the taste of like the other side and loved it and it was in a position that it worked out perfectly and I just had these opportunities and kind of took
Mhm.
advantage. So, that's where I'm at now and that's kind of how I transitioned out. I'm always curious if COVID didn't happen,
Mhm.
where I would be and if I would still be in theater because I think that I would. I think I would.
Mhm. It's such an interesting sliding doors moment, right? Because you'll never know. And
Right.
you did exactly what you needed to do for you in the moment that you had to get your first job, which for anyone
Yeah.
listening, especially people who are in the professional world now, the first job out of college is the hardest job to get. Regardless of your
Yeah.
profession, right? And, that's not an exaggeration. People have to apply to so many jobs just to get interviews because you're competing with a pool of people who are coming with some experience, and that's just going to bump
Yeah.
their resumes above yours. And so the fact that you found that job, you got the year under your belt, and then it led you to some place where you're really happy currently is
Mhm.
huge. And I just think that, if you consider theater from a zoomed out perspective and what you're doing in your life, like I also believe that if at some point you want to go back and be a stage manager on a show or help in some way, there's no reason why you can't. You have the training, you have the experience, you have the work ethic. So, it's always going to be there for you. But what I think is the takeaway from this is you have a degree in stage management and you are now working in marketing in a
Mhm.
corporate marketing position. That's big, people who are listening, right? So you got to study something you loved. You learned all of these transferable skills,
Mhm.
and now you're applying that to your daily work.
Yeah.
So I think beyond work ethic, what do you think are some of the biggest skills that you've brought along to make you successful in your current role and what you want to pursue moving forward?
Specific to sales, but also in general, the 2 biggest things that I thought of was networking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I it's crazy how big the theater network is and how that
Mm,
goes into literally every other industry and every other network, and everyone knows everyone. And also just having the confidence and ability to network, like, the second thing I was gonna say is people skills. Like, I can get
mm-hmm.
up in front of a room of 100 people and talk and
Yep.
not be scared. We can get in a room and we know how to work it and work with so
Yes.
many different people and talk and perform and execute and all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for sure networking and for sure people skills are something I use every single day and kind of interchangeably, but that's definitely one of the other biggest takeaways I would say I got from stage management.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And networking is a key component to being successful in any profession, right? I mean, you have to be able to talk to people. And as a consultant, like I am networking all the time, meeting new people. And to your exact point, I so often meet theater people unintentionally who are
Yeah.
not necessarily doing theater anymore. I've met people who, I used to be a vocal coach and I'm now an executive coach, right? Or now I met somebody the other day who is, coaching people like juries on how to
Oh
speak
my
and
gosh.
and lawyers who are helping
That
like
is so
coach juries.
cool.
Super fascinating, right? Who has an acting background. You just don't know
Yeah.
where these different skills are going to lead you because of, having that foundation and how to work with humans. Like that, it's a
Yeah.
big part of it. And not everybody is good at that. I think we take it easily for granted when we come from this corner of the world, but not everybody's good at that. So it's a huge
Yeah.
skill that people take with them. So we've talked a lot about transferable skills. I guess I want to know, like, what would you say to students who may want to pursue a degree in the performing arts? Like, what advice would you give them?
The first thing I would ask them is, do you really love it? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're about to work your butt off. And you don't have to love it forever. I didn't love it forever. I still have a deep love and passion for theater. I'm just not in it right now. Going into the performing arts, and I'm speaking from experience of a conservatory. So, like, the
Mm-hmm.
only thing I did for 4 years at the theater school was stage management. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, I took a costume design elective, but all that I did every single day was stage management. So, like, you really have to know it and love it. And if you don't, that's okay. You'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the advice I would give to students that want to go into the performing arts
Mm-hmm.
is, and I know that everyone says this, but like to trust yourself or like
Mm-hmm.
know that everything's going to work out. And I feel like if you have the theater piece figured out, you're already doing so amazing. Knowing that I wanted to go into stage management or theater in general was already such a huge piece of the puzzle. Everything else was finite. Deciding to go to DePaul changed my life forever, but at that moment felt like the weight of the world, but
Mm-hmm.
really was like such a small decision in like the bigger scheme of things. And also just acknowledging like what a privilege it was to study what I was so passionate and in love with and like get my
Mhm.
education that way. Another thing that just popped into my head with like going into theater and choosing to do a conservatory, for any of the students that are like not theater kids from when they were young and like grew up passionate about this, like I totally came into this world late, quote unquote,
Mhm.
and got through it with a double major in psychology because I wanted that normal college experience with like
Mhm.
not theater kids, and I didn't room with theater kids just to have that like little taste of, I say normal, but like theater life is normal-ish, but still that taste of like a traditional college experience is
Mhm.
very doable. So also don't let that deter you of like, oh, if I do theater, like I have to do theater. Where
Mhm.
I felt I got such a well-rounded education and experience, A, being in the city of Chicago, like, that was amazing, but also double majoring and, like, taking the gen ed classes that not everyone
Mhm.
like, was taking was amazing. But to sum that all up, know that you
Mhm.
love it because you're gonna do it and you're gonna do it every single day, and
Mhm.
also just trusting yourself, like, everything's gonna work out, you're gonna be where you need to be, and if theater's not the end goal, it's okay because theater is such a solid foundation to have. I honestly wouldn't want any other degree or
Mhm.
foundation to have walked into my career with. And then advice making the transition, I think it's so important to just know about yourself and learn about yourself. And I think the performing arts and theater is so amazing at that in college of really tapping into what are you good at? Like, what are you bad at? And how do we use
Mhm.
those together to get you somewhere or to help you be the best version of yourself on this team or on this project or in this group of people? And it is such a vulnerable experience being in the arts, like
Mhm.
every single day having to test your skills and like your talent, if you will. Or maybe not everyone does that in more generic fields.
Yeah, they
Um,
don't.
right? And I think honestly using that to your advantage of like, I know what I'm really good at and I'm going to
Mhm.
do that. Like I'm going to use that in my career and in this transition. And going
Mhm.
into the marketing advertising, I know I'm really good at organizing. I know I'm really
Mhm.
good at the project management. I'm not so great at the creative, but it is so fun. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
work at a bank right now. That would not be
Yeah.
interesting to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Finding that niche of now I'm managing sales for a creative company
Mhm.
that is still very in line with everything I did. It's just a different medium of
Yep,
art.
absolutely.
The world's a stage, and
Yes.
now marketing is the show that I call.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I think that's really important to emphasize because, yes, you absolutely could have gone to undergrad and majored in business with an emphasis in marketing or majored in
right.
marketing and ended up in the same job, but you would have brought a very different experience to it. And I
Totally.
think that
Yeah.
that's what I love about what you're doing now. And I relate very much to it. I have found a world in which I can be a very big part of a creative process and in a group of peers and colleagues who are creative people, but I'm looking at it from a different angle and
Yeah.
perspective. And I think when we put all those pieces together, that's what creates the beautiful picture. It just brings new perspectives to the positions
Yeah,
that we're in.
totally.
And yeah, and I think that colleagues often appreciate that ability to look at it from a different angle. And I will just lift up what Gabby said. You were one of the most organized people I've ever met in the best way. No, and when you have this woman on your team, you're very lucky because, she helps you keep all the things in line in exactly the way that you need it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question that I haven't asked previous guests. I think it's interesting perspective that you can also provide. So as
Okay.
a first generation college student, what advice
Yeah.
would you give to parents or supporters who may be very nervous about their students pursuing this pathway?
Don't be nervous. I would say, and this was just my experience, honestly, I think I was just so caught in the chaos. I was never nervous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always knew I would go to college because my parents didn't, and so it was very ingrained in me that, like, there was no option, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying college is a great fit for everyone. Many people are very successful not having gone to college. For me personally,
Absolutely.
I loved it. It was totally in my path. My parents definitely course that decision anyways, but I love college. I wouldn't be nervous. I would do my research.
Mhm.
a lot of it. Even when you think you've done your research, you haven't done enough.
Mhm.
I had no idea what I was doing. And my parents, I think, were best case scenario in the sense that they supported me wholeheartedly. They knew that
Mhm.
I was going to do the best with the information that I had, and they supported that no matter what. But my parents also had no idea. So they couldn't necessarily lead me in any direction. Um, and honestly, the biggest part from a parent's perspective, and this is again just from my experience and like being sort of an overachiever and like nerdy student, like I was very on top of my grades and things like that, and the paperwork and the applications. Like I could handle the essays, the applications, the interview. But just knowing that no matter what happened, my parents didn't care. Like they were so
Mm.
proud of me and they were so supportive. And I could come home and be like, I got rejected again. I got rejected again. I got into this one. Let's party. Like, I got rejected again. Or like, I got into
Mhm.
this school, but not the theater school. Or even, and this was really tough for them too. I don't want to plug any other universities, but I was between UMich and DePaul. Those were like
Mhm.
my absolute two favorites. We could not afford UMich. Oh my God. They were not willing to give scholarships to anyone for anything.
Mhm.
But I just remember such like a core memory. My dad wrote a letter to the president.
Oh.
My dad's first language is Spanish. There
Mhm.
was not a single comma used correctly in that entire letter. The literacy of this letter was that of not a 40-year-old man.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I just remember reading the letter and just feeling so overwhelmed with love and support.
Mhm.
And like, this letter was not getting me into UMich, but it meant the world to me. Just knowing that my parents were there for me, no matter what
Mhm.
happened, I think was the most important part of like,
Yeah.
they couldn't write my essays. They had no idea what a college application looked like.
Mhm.
They'd never been to a theater interview. Neither had I. So all they could do was just be there to support me. I would come out of the room crying, thinking I did
Mm.
horrible in the audition. Sometimes I
Mhm.
come out so excited, and then those would be weirdly the ones I got rejected from. Like it was such a roller coaster of emotions and applications and things, but just knowing that they were there was the only thing that mattered.
Mm.
And don't be nervous because you're gonna get rejected.
Mhm.
You're gonna get into places and everything's gonna work out.
Well, that's such amazing advice and wisdom. And what I want to just emphasize out of that for parents and supporters, especially, is that this is scary for everybody. And I think if you all stick together as a family and you're just there to support each other, like it will work out. Right. And, I want to point out too that you said that, you applied to a lot of different institutions. Some of them were more affordable than others. And you still ended up at a expensive private school in
Yeah.
Chicago from Florida and were able to make that financially work for your family. So I always like to share that with parents too, that you don't know what's going to be offered in a financial
Mm,
aid and scholarship package until students get admitted. And
right.
so I don't want people to take away opportunities if they don't know what the outcome will be. And I think that
Oh,
that's
yeah.
huge.
Think something crazy that I did, like my SAT scores were not that great. I got like a
Hmm.
1260, 1300, like I guess that's decent, but like I was
Yeah.
not getting the perfect score or like I was not at the top of my class as
Hmm.
far as SAT scores go. I still applied to Carnegie Mellon. I was applying
Hmm.
to Western, like I was way out of my league and somehow still got into every room. I was
Hmm.
still interviewing and doing the things and got into half of these schools that I should not have gotten into. But it really is just like putting yourself out there and like
Yep.
kind of not letting the application steer you. Like if you want to
Hmm.
go to that school, then tell them you want to go to the school, you know? Like you're very much part of the conversation. And I feel like at
Yes.
first I didn't realize that of like,
Hmm.
excuse me, like I have to be good enough. But also the school has to be good enough for you.
Absolutely.
It is a very much a relationship.
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people forget that, or I didn't even realize that until I
Right.
was very much in it of like, oh, I actually don't like the school, or I don't like this part of this program or whatever.
Hmm.
And I don't have to go here just because I got in or just because
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. No, it's so huge to think about. People forget that. It's like one of the first opportunities in our long professional lives where you realize you're interviewing the schools just as much
Yeah.
as they are interviewing you. And it has to be a fit because back to, you talking about you loving college and it being an amazing experience, you spend 4 years there and that's part of it, but it creates the foundation for who you will become as an adult. And so
Mhm.
you want to be happy wherever
Yeah.
you go and feel like that was the right place. And that I think is at the crux of pursuing a performing arts program is the decision is different because of what
Mhm.
you're getting yourself into. And
Yeah.
so it's just important to be thoughtful and to, again, feel like you're wanted as much as you want them in
Yeah.
all of this. I think the only last thing I want to know, is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't get to talk about?
Just in general, like, I feel so lucky to have studied stage management and, like, as a non-theater kid who did theater for 10 years of my life,
Hmm.
to not be in theater anymore, having that as such a significant part of my life and shaping so much of who I am feels so important, and I feel so grateful for it,
Hmm.
even though I didn't grow up with it, and even though I'm not currently in it, like, it really is part of, like, my core and, like, who I am, and I'm so proud of that, and so I think for anyone interested in studying theater, going into theater, the performing arts, or any arts or anything, just really, like, soaking up everything you can from it. Like, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter where or what you're studying, but just using all of the resources and networking and soaking up that time for your education, for your career, and even just for your personal growth. Like, being in the city of Chicago was such a dream that I didn't know even existed. Like, I grew up in South Florida. I for sure thought I was going to a state school with, like, sororities and football, and there's I think there is Greek life at DePaul. Very little, very small Greek life at DePaul, but it's there. But to say, like, there was no football team at DePaul. I didn't even know colleges existed that didn't have football teams.
Hmm.
So, to go to a city school and just have such a different experience than what I expected and, like, have an even better outcome, I think is so exciting. So, believe in yourself, do what's best for you with the information that you have. Everything is learning experience, and theater is an amazing, amazing community and resource and tool and everything that anyone who is lucky enough to experience it and study it and be in it can do anything, honestly.
That is the perfect way to end this conversation. So thank you, Gabby. I'm so happy to connect with you again and see how you are thriving. And I never ever had a doubt that you would, but it's just so joyful to be able to be in your presence and hear how you're doing. So thank you so much.
Of course. I
Mhm.
had such a nice time.
All right, until next time.